Why me? I can't get caught. Not like this. No, I've got to find someone to pin this on. Someone like him. Yeah, I'll make it look like he did it.
My name is Phoenix Wright. Here's the story. My first case is a fairly simple one. A young woman was killed in her apartment. The guy they arrested was the unlucky sap dating her. Larry Butts, my best friend since grade school. Our school had a saying, when something smells, it's usually the butts. In the 23 years I've known him, it's usually been true. He has a knack for getting himself in trouble. One thing I can say, though, it's usually not his fault. He just has terrible luck. But I know better than anyone that he's a good guy at heart. That I owe him one, which is why I took the case, to clear his name. And that's just what I'm going to do.
The court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Larry Butts.
The prosecution is ready.
The defense is ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Wright, this is your first trial, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm a little nervous.
Well, Mr. Wright, are you? Your conduct during this trial will decide the fate of your client. Murder is a serious charge. For your client's sake, I hope you can control your nerves.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. I think I can handle it.
Your Honor, are you sure this amateur is ready to take on this case?
Hands shaking. Eyesight fading.
Let us continue with the trial.
Your Honor, the murder of Cindy Stone was executed using this.
And that is?
This, Your Honor, is a statue of the thinker, used as a blunt object to hit Miss Cindy Stone over the head, killing her instantly.
How did you know that?
What's the matter, Mr. Wright? Do you not have an updated autopsy report?
I see. The court accepts this into evidence. Mr. Payne, the prosecution may call its first witness.
Ahem. Mr. Butts, is it true that the victim had just recently dumped you?
Hey, watch it, buddy! We were great together. We were Romeo and Juliet, Mark Antony and Cleopatra.
Didn't they all die?
I wasn't dumped. She just wasn't taking my phone calls. Or seeing me. Ever. What's it to you anyway, buddy?
Mr. Butts, what you have just described is generally what we mean by dumped. In fact, she had completely abandoned you and was seeing other men. She had just returned with one of them from overseas, the day before the murder.
What do you mean, one of them? Lies! All lies!
Your Honor, the victim's passport. According to this, she was in Paris until the day before she was murdered.
Indeed, she appeared to have returned the day before the murder.
Dude! No way!
The victim was a model, but she did not have a very large income. It appears that she had several sugar daddies.
Sugar? Daddy?
Yes, older men who gave her money and gifts. She took their money and used it to support her lifestyle.
Dude!
Tell me, Mr. Butts, what do you think of her now?
My client had no idea the victim was seeing other men. This question is irrelevant to the case.
Wince. Dude, Nick! What do you mean irrelevant? That cheating she-dog! I'm gonna die! I'm just gonna drop dead! Yeah, and whatever you do in the afterlife, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this!
Let's continue with the trial, shall we?
I believe the accused's motive is quite clear.
Yes, quite.
This is so not looking good.
Next question! You, Mr. Butts, went to the victim's apartment, did you not? Well, did you or did you not?
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Uh-oh. He went. What do I do? Oh, I know. I'll send him a signal. Yeah.
What? Oh yeah! I was there, I went.
Order.
Dude, chill out, man. She like wasn't home. I didn't get a chance to see her.
Objection! Your Honor, the defendant is lying.
Lying?
The prosecution would like to call a witness who can prove that Mr. Butts is lying.
Well, that simplifies matters. Who is your witness?
The man who found the victim's body. Just before making the gruesome discovery, he saw the defendant fleeing from the scene of the crime.
Order! Order in the court. Mr. Payne, the prosecution may call its witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Uh-oh. This is bad.
On the day of the murder, my witness was selling newspapers outside of the victim's building. Please bring Mr. Frank Sott to the stand. Mr. Sott, you sell newspaper subscriptions, is this correct?
Oh yes, newspapers, yes.
Mr. Sawhit, you may proceed with your testimony. Please tell the court what you saw on the day of the murder.
I was going door to door selling subscriptions when I saw a man fleeing an apartment. I thought he must be in a hurry since he left the door open behind him. Thinking it strange, I looked into the apartment. Then I saw her there, a woman, not moving, dead. I quailed in fright and found myself unable to go inside. I thought to call the police immediately. However, the phone in her apartment wasn't working. So I went to a nearby park and found a public phone. I remember the time exactly. It was 1 p.m. Yes. The man who ran was without a doubt the defendant sitting right over there.
Larry, why didn't you tell the truth? I can't defend you against testimony like that.
Incidentally, why wasn't the phone in the victim's apartment working?
Your Honor, at time of the murder, there was a blackout in the building.
Aren't phones supposed to work during a blackout?
Yes, Your Honor. However, some cordless phones do not function normally. The one Mr. Sawit had was one of those. Your Honor, I have the record of the blackout for your perusal.
Now, Mr. Wright,
Yes, Your Honor?
you may begin with your cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Sawit, what was it again you said you were doing in the apartment complex?
Oh, yes, I was selling newspapers door to door.
Newspapers, yes. Yes, I see. And what did you see when you looked inside the apartment room?
Oh, I saw a woman lying on the ground, not moving. She was dead.
I see. And around what time did you saw occur?
Yes, I remember the time exactly. It was exactly 1 o'clock p.m.
Hold it! 1 o'clock p.m., you say? Are you certain about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Objection! You found the body at 1 o'clock p.m. You're sure of this?
Oh, yes, of course. 1 p.m. for certain.
Frankly, I find that hard to believe. Your statements already contradict this autopsy report. The autopsy notes the time of death at 4 o'clock p.m. How do you explain this 3-hour time gap? It doesn't work.
Objection! That is a trivial matter. The witness merely forgot the time.
After his testimony, I find that hard to believe. Mr. Sawhead, why were you so certain that you found the body at 1 p.m.?
Gee, that's a really good question. Wait, I remember now.
Would you care to give your testimony again?
You see, when I found the body, I heard the time. Yeah, there was a voice saying the time. It was probably coming from the television. Oh, but it was 3 hours off, wasn't it? I guess the victim must have been watching a video of a taped program. That's why I thought it was 1 p.m. Terribly sorry about the misunderstanding.
I see. You heard a voice saying the time on the taped program. Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness.
I've got this one.
I guess the victim must have been watching a taped video program.
Hold it! A video?
Yes. That would explain why the time was wrong.
True.
We're agreed that you heard the time at the scene then.
Objection! Hold it right there. The prosecution has said there was a blackout at the time of the discovery, and this record here proves it.
So you couldn't have heard television or a video.
The defense has a point. You have an explanation for this, Mr. Sawhead?
No, I find it quite puzzling myself. Quite. Wait, I remember now.
Mr. Sawhead, the court would prefer to hear an accurate testimony from the very beginning. These constant corrections are harming your credibility. That, and you seem rather distraught.
My apologies, Your Honor. It must have been the shock from finding the body.
Very well, Mr. Sawhead. Let's hear your testimony once more, please.
Actually, I didn't hear the time. I saw it. There was a table clock in the apartment, wasn't there? Yes! Yeah, the murder weapon! The killer used it to hit the victim. That must have been what I saw.
You saw the clock? I guess that would explain it. The defense may cross-examine the witness.
There was a table clock in the apartment, wasn't there?
Hold it. A table clock? Was there a table clock recovered at the scene?
This is the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, the murder weapon. The killer used it to hit the victim.
Hold it. The murder weapon?
Yes, the table clock. That was what was used as a weapon. That's what I just said. Did you doze off in the middle of my testimony or something?
Something's fishy. Objection! Wait a second. The murder weapon wasn't a clock. It was the statue. How is this supposed to be a clock?
Wow! You with your objections and your evidence. Just who do you think you are?
Just answer the question, Mr. Solid.
Hey, I saw it there, okay? Look, that's a clock!
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Bain?
as the witness stated, this statue is indeed a clock. The neck is a switch. You just tilt it, and it says the time out loud. As it doesn't look like a clock, I submitted it as a statue. My apologies.
I see. So the murder weapon was a table clock after all. Well, Mr. Wright, it appears that the witness's testimony was correct. This is a clock. Do you have any problems with his testimony now?
Your Honor, there is a gaping hole in the witness's testimony. The only way he could have known that the weapon was a clock was to have held it in his hand. Yet the witness claims he never entered the apartment. Clearly a contradiction.
Indeed.
The witness knew it was a clock because he knew the victim. Tell me, isn't it true you knew the victim? In fact, you were one of her sugar daddies. Be frank with us, Mr. Solid.
We have complete records of the victim's relationships. Mr. Frank saw it is not on there.
Huh? Oh. Really?
Please, Mr. Wright, is hump the best response you can muster up? Try to refrain from making off-the-cuff in the future.
Yes, Your Honor. Let me think this over. You're lying. You were inside the apartment on the day of the murder.
Oh yeah? Prove it! Fine then! Prove I went in there!
I'll do better than that. I can prove you were the one who killed her. You struck her with the clock, and the shock of the blow triggered the alarm clock's voice. That must have been the sound you heard.
Order in the court. Training, please continue, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Solid, the sound you heard must have left quite an impression on you, especially since the murder weapon spoke right as you hit the victim. That voice was burned into your mind. That's why you were so certain about the time.
Objection! What is the meaning of this? This is all baseless conjecture.
Baseless? Just look at the witness's face.
Would the witness care to elaborate? Did you strike the victim with the clock?
That day the clock, I saw some, Shut up! I hate you! It was him! I tell you! They saw him! He should give him death! He killed her! And he should burn! Give him death!
Order in the court, I say.
Your Honor, a moment, please. There isn't a shred of evidence supporting the defense's claims.
Mr. Wright, you claim the sound the witness heard came from the clock. Do you have any evidence?
The whole case is riding on this one. I better think it through carefully. Yes, Your Honor. The sound Mr. Sawat heard was definitely this clock. This is clear if you simply sound the clock. Let's do it, right here, in this courtroom, right now. Your Honor, may I have the clock? I ask the court to listen very carefully.
I think it's 8:25.
That certainly is a strange way to announce the time.
Well, he is the thinker after all.
So we've heard the clock. What are your conclusions, Mr. Wright?
Mr. Payne, can you tell me what time it is exactly?
It's 11:25.
As you can see, this clock is exactly 3 hours slow. Precisely the difference between what Mr. Sawat heard and the actual time of death. So, Mr. Sawat, try to talk your way out of this one.
You forgot one thing!
Uh-oh, what is he talking about?
Well, it may seem like the clock is running 3 hours slow. It proves nothing! How did you know it was running 3 days slow on the day of the murder? If you can't prove that, you don't have a case!
He's right. How am I going to prove that? Curses, I was so close.
Mr. Wright? This means I cannot let you indict the witness. Unfortunately, this ends the cross-examination of Mr. Frank Sawhead.
I come all the way down here to testify, and look what happens. They treat me like I'm a criminal. A criminal! You lawyers are all slime.
I almost had him. I'm sorry, Larry. I failed you. There's nothing I can do about it now. You can't prove the clock was slow the day of the murder. No one can prove that. Come on, Phoenix. Don't waste your time doubting the facts. Assume the clock was 3 hours slow and think through it. Why was the clock 3 hours slow? Wait, maybe I can prove it.
Well, Mr. Wright, you say the clock was already running slow on the day of the murder. Have you found evidence to support this claim?
Of course. There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can prove my claim beyond any doubt.
Ha! Tough words. Let's see you pull them off.
Let's see this evidence that proves why the clock was running slow.
Take that! The victim had just returned from abroad the day before the murder. As we all know, the time difference between here and Paris is 9 hours. When it's 4 p.m. here, it's already 1 a.m. the next day in France. The clock wasn't 3 hours slow, it was 9 hours fast. The victim hadn't had a chance to reset her clock since returning home. That's why when you struck her dead, the voice you heard was the wrong time. How do you explain that, Mr. Sawat? Or should I say, Mr. Did It?
Order! Order, I say! Well, this case has certainly turned out differently than we all expected. Mr. Payne, your client?
He was arrested and has been taken away, Your Honor.
Very well, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor.
I have to say I'm impressed. I don't think I've ever seen someone complete a defense so quickly and find the true culprit at the same time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
At this point, this is only a formality, but this court finds the defendant, Mr. Larry Butts, not guilty. And with that, the court is adjourned.
It turns out that Frank Sawat was a common burglar. He posed as a newspaper salesman to check and see when people were out of the house. That day, when Larry went to her apartment, the victim wasn't home. After he left, Mr. Sawat let himself in to do his dirty work. While he was searching the place, the victim returned. Flustered, Mr. Sawat grabbed the nearest blunt object he could find. Justice had been served. I won my first case, but more importantly, I saved my best friend.
I just love you so much. Give me your hand, give me your hand, give me your hand. I love you.
This case was over, but a new one, with new characters and new adventures, was just around the corner.
So you couldn't have heard a television or a video.
Wow, the rain's really loud, isn't it?
Low rain.
Low rain.
Ah! Not again! Stop it!
Tell me about your apartment.
You know I recorded that.
Robbie looks like a girl.
You better stop wasting.
Yes. It's a funny pun. It is a good jest.
Page 1, 2, where's 3?
He needs to say,
Three?
yeah.